Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Tracy Cook. I'm the Online Media Manager for ModernAnalyst.com, the premier community for business analysts. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar entitled 5 Secrets of Blending Customer Data for the Return on Investment Driven Analyst. Today's featured speakers are Keith Conley, Director, Analytics and Insight at Bunchball, Munna Block at Alliance Marketing, and Ross Perez, Senior Project Marketing Manager at Tableau Software. The webinar today will last approximately 60 minutes, including our question and answer period at the end. Please submit your questions in advance using the questions features of the GoToWebinar software. I'd like to say thank you today to Alteryx for sponsoring this event. And at this time, I will turn it over to Keith to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate that. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Keith Conley, Director of Analytics and Insight here at Bunchball. So I'm going to be taking you through our 5 secrets of blending customer data in the program. First, we're going to start out with a little introduction on Bunchball and what we do. We're a high-tech startup based in San Francisco, providing gamification to drive customer loyalty and engagement. I have a small team here that needs to provide analytics to our customers that demonstrate results of the program. We demonstrate success and find points of optimization to do so. So we'll go through a bit of our technology stack and how we leverage Alteryx and Tableau to help out with that. So what we're going to do is start out with a little bit of a primer on gamification. It'll definitely help to set the tone on how and why we need to blend data and where we find the benefits of it there, and then how we use it and how we express that moving forward. So we'll start with a quote from our founder and Chief Product Officer, Rajat Paharia. He's known as the Godfather of Gamification, and he says that if motivation in big data had a love child, its name would be gamification. And that's because these concepts are what make gamification possible. It's not that the items and concepts behind gamification are new. It's just that now we're able to leverage them and make them actionable in ways that were never before possible, because we have better access to data and lots of it, and we have a better understanding of the motivation at play. So gamification itself is the application of game mechanics to non-game situations in digital environments. So we provide motivation in the form of points and badges and other means, which drive intrinsic motivators. So I'll expand on that definition as we move forward. So to demonstrate, a little bit, Nitro serves as a rules engine, enabling our clients to create feedback loops with their end users via game mechanics. So as we look at mechanics that manifest in things such as news feeds and pop-up notifications and the earnings of points or badges, as well as introducing next steps like future missions. Essentially, we're able to guide and react to user behavior in digital environments like websites or LMS systems or CRMs. And we can do so in a very personalized way. So each game mechanic connects with users by one of the intrinsic motivators I mentioned before. So we're looking at autonomy, which allows individuals to be self-directed, mastery, to help people fully grasp the subject purpose, telling them why they're here and what they should be doing, and then illustrating progress against how they're doing, and the communication of being social, so how they can express who they are, what they've done, what they've learned, and how they're doing in a community. So we do this in a way that we're trying to provide a path for onboarding all the way through mastery. And so within any environment that we look at, we drive increased adoption and continuous engagement, because we feel that people have to get in, leverage the tools they're using in order to be as good as they can. So in looking at where we do this, we want to understand these 5 primary use cases. So where we can integrate with your native tools and systems, gamification programs then reinforce the behavior you want to shape. And therefore, that drives adoption, turning this system of record, like an LMS system, into a system of engagement. So we can provide this to your employees, customers, and partners, all living within these systems of record. And so, for a call center or an ITSM standpoint, your social collaboration environment, these numerous platforms and products you're using to operate your business and drive revenue, their success in these tools then really has impact on your business. And so the way I relate it to people outside of Bunchball, I like to say, when I'm talking to my own colleagues, and I have to remind them, we have a process for that. that information exists. Or, I have notes in the CRM system that last I spoke with a client that is available to you. And so understanding the purpose of the tools and adopting them is how we drive value within the tools themselves, but it doesn't happen automatically. And so that's where gamification really comes in. So we'll use learning management system as a quick example here, because our focus here on the value position around the impact of getting more out of the system. So within your LMS, inspiring users to achieve higher scores, complete training faster, well, that eventually is going to lead to getting employees to proficiency faster, as well as gaining more effective avenues for driving compliance there as well. So you're able to turn that perfunctory chore of completing a course or taking a quiz into an opportunity for users to demonstrate their engagement, because now we've provided them a score that they can relate to others. We may have provided them a badge that says they have completed a particular set of courses, recognizing them as a master. The other thing that I'll relate to that, and is pertinent for our discussion today, is that these end results and the value that is provided by going through the programs within the LMS aren't necessarily reported out within the LMS itself. We have a performance management system that's going to provide employee engagement metrics and employee success metrics there. So as we think of relating our impact on the business, we have to be able to speak to those systems and aggregate data between those systems in order to create that more holistic story. Because we want to relate our gamified improvements to the business outcomes at hand. And so that's where we get to our approach. As we always start with our behavioral data set, we have very transactional, granular records of what each user has done within the system. So the understanding is that these behaviors are then linked to the resulting outcomes, as I just mentioned. So examples of this can be linking proper Salesforce sales stages and conversion rates, or regular updates of account activity and more accurate sales projections. So we then look at things like increased customer engagement within a community or a platform, leading to conversion from free to paid services and overall lifetime value of a customer as well. So many of you probably have similar wants along these lines, so concretely linking the impact of marketing activities and outbound advertising to conversion events, that's difficult, and it's rarely done through a single tool. So, another common example could be the understanding of live events and those impacts on your search campaigns, so where time-bound, functionality comes into play. We all need to be able to collect these various pieces of information, succinctly aggregate them, and then present them out in a way that's understandable and digestible. So this is how we do it. I'm going to take a few seconds to outline our approach and some of the key findings we had in order to get to where we want to go along with our customers. So number one, it's always going big, going with aspirational intention. So when I say that, what I want to focus on, and I do this with all my clients, is that we can't rely on just a single tool. Reporting gets siloed into distinct, weekly events of looking at cost and volume for search efforts, and then separate reporting, is spent on conversion rates, and then separate against, impressions and marketing activities that are out there separately. And we need to be able to aggregate these all at once and look at them in real time. Typically, in past roles I've had, we're able to look at these maybe on a monthly basis or aggregate them even quarterly to say this was the major impact we had, and these are the boiling up of the results. What we've done here, and what we strive to do, is do that on a real-time basis. Have these conversations weekly, twice a week even, to say that here's the impact that we're seeing, and here's how we can react much faster. Because there's a lot that goes into telling the whole story and doing it regularly. So as opposed to a single point in time report that takes effort and planning, what we want to do is create value along the way. What we're looking at here is one of our Alteryx modules. This here represents the top 20% of a module we built for a Fortune 200 enterprise client. At the top, we have a various set of inputs. These include MySQL database queries for particular sets of our own data, CSVs from the client, and then reference tables to set things like fiscal dates and quarterly performance goals here. There are certainly common aspects for each input, but the challenges that we face internally are very similar to things I imagine most of you encounter out there as well. How do we link these with a unique key? How do we deal with different levels of aggregation between the different reports? And since we're collecting these from various stakeholders, we have reporting updates with changes field types. Sometimes the inclusion or exclusion of particular fields can cause havoc with typical reporting methods. And then there's always just things change. Things are accepted and aggregated in different ways, without the knowledge of, passing that on to us. So this work here and what we're looking at here has actually evolved over the last 3 years. We started performing this via Excel, and then once the data got to a particular size, we had to move to Access. And then when we got to Access, we started to hit the 2 gig limit and ran into multiple Access modules running together here. And then finally today, we're running this through Alteryx, and this is where we've seen definitely the most flexibility and potential for working and building an even larger data set here. The views we're able to generate from this module have been transformative, not only for us, but for our clients. We generate views for top-line metrics and what we call regional and worldwide executive summaries, as well as provide detailed reports for performance down to the individual level. So with the same exports that are coming through here, what we're able to do is talk to the business stakeholder as well as different program managers, even by region here. And so prior to the automation and repeatability of what we built here, the first secret for us is to enable going beyond this single tool's capability for reporting. This has never been done to collect data from such a wide variety of data sources to say this is the behavioral link we can make to the outgoing business impact, which in this case is sales here for us. And so really what we're trying to do, this entire effort here, is to flip the script on these 2 triangles here. The goal for my team is always to be efficient, and we always strive to improve the quality of our work at the same time. And so, this relates to a probably more common triangle that's out there. We've always seen the balance between time, quality, and cost. And typically, a lot of time for analysts is spent at the data blending level, which typically I put in the data management and operations side, which really has the least cost or at least value that we can provide to the client. And so at this point, we're a team of 2, and we generate meaningful reports and provide guidance to over 75 customers in the last 2 quarters here. Now, we strive to spend about 50% of our time with the top 20% of our roster, similar to building what I just showed you there. And to do that, what we have to do is provide those insights, the high value, as quickly as possible. So how do we do that? If we look at what we do, the formula on the right here would have been a common way for us to extract a single bit of information within a few cells. So this formula is very exact. It requires information referenced to a live cell in a particular spreadsheet. And it was also common for us to use things like VLOOKUPs as a primary means of data blending. So the challenge remained on a monthly basis for all the data sources that we bring in, were the formulas we're still using still applicable? Meaning, did anything change? Did any particular element of the cell change in the last week, month, or quarter, and then adjust to that? Then we also have to set the date ranges and the formula ranges. So did my data set grow over time, and how do I automatically adjust for that? And then we get into the format changes. Why are my dates no longer recognized as dates? Why are my numbers recognized as string values, and everything like that? So, and then of course we would run into the size issues. As we move further, down into our digital age, and the size of data, becomes so staggering, then we have to be able to address files with more than a few million rows in it. It's just what we have to do. And so what we're able to do with Alteryx, we have a few favorite tools for data blending. So we use the select tool frequently, so we can set the format for each cell. So if my string is being seen as an integer, I just set it back to the string, and we're set. The formulas have a variety of purposes that we use, but a quick one for us are things like trim and uppercase. So if we create strings and have to join on a particular field, we can trim it from the various data sources, make it all uppercase, so we have a better chance of success moving it into the right direction. And then we have the flexibility with the joins coming in. So we can join to the left and right. We can join with a union or not. And it's very visually really compelling and easy to see what the results are. Similarly, what we've got here, back to what's on the left, we can now take this very specific information and parse it out by regex. This allows us to recognize particular patterns and adjust by that so that even as people add or subtract, what types of information are coming in, we don't have to match on particular sets of key value pairs. We don't have to look for user info itself. We can look for the relationship with the data we want to. And then lastly, the easiest part, for us through Alteryx is summarize. So we decide what level of aggregation we want within the data set. So as we mentioned before, if something comes in on a transactional basis and another thing comes in on a weekly basis, we can roll those up so that they're all seen on the same level and then provide our joins there. So what we've gained here is not only time, but accuracy. The amount of supervision and context that an analyst needs to work with the data is immense, and it was a lot larger before. So they had to actually be dedicated to a particular workbook and a particular set of processes. Now that we have these modules built, they can be handed off with fairly little supervision and then modest notes within the instruction set itself to say, okay, I need you to run these client reports for this week. No problem. We'll connect the data sets and the outputs will work. So today we're able to set up these business rules and then determine how the data is going to be handled. So we can reference an entire column. We're able to parse and clean the fields and generate new columns with specific information that we need. So this is common for us, and we need to continue finding these unique keys within various data sets and decoupling cells, multiple pieces of data, and this is the way we're able to do it much faster than we've ever done before. And I think the best thing for us is repeatable. So while within data, the cells change within data, and typically, I'll say typically because the formats remain true, but again, being able to set the format of the cell and then realign it as it should be instead of how it was imported is super helpful. So we definitely saw increases in our efficiency and accuracy as well. So for us, the most busy time of the month, the beginning of the month, was definitely not as big a hassle as it used to be. And so the other thing I want to mention here is, you're coming in and fixing the data. So as we look at here, you can see on the right we have the true false. So here you can see the impact, of the statements that you put in there. So as we write VLOOKUPs and then create pivot tables off of them, we have a particular set of data that comes out as truth. Here we know exactly what we're excluding and can adjust our formulas, on the fly. We can also write little pieces of formulas that'll say, okay, I started out with 1 million rows. Do I still have 1 million rows now? If I add up the quantity column, do I still have the same total? And so providing little checks like that along the way allow our confidence within the data to remain high as well. Now that we've got our data into a particular format, what we want to do here is communicate to all audiences within one solution. So what we found before in providing different sets of data to different stakeholders is that we ended up providing more than one source of truth, because interpretation and aggregation between different managers or different programs was never the same. They would apply different treatments. So what we wanted to do was provide a single set that everyone can work off of. If we could, we would build their business rules actually into the document, and I'll show you how we do that in just a second. And then also what we wanted to do is provide the ability to say, look, client, I want you to take what I've provided and just take a screenshot of it for your report. You can provide it to your exec. But then in the same report, we'll get the question during a meeting that says, Keith, I need to know what happened with this customer after the product expo in Chicago. So that's not an overall, that's not a single chart. That's really drill down information. And so being able to go from that high level to the level of granularity needed for those particular apps, it's vastly different and commonly done by different people within the organization. But what we're able to do here is provide a succinct set of data that does roll up, does provide the elevator pitch, if you will, but then allow the program managers to go in and ask individual questions. So to this point, we've really discussed the benefits of data blending specifically for joining different data sets. And here what we're benefiting from is using those formulas to expand on the data we were provided so we can meet the needs of individual stakeholders. Different users and different teams can set up individual rules and report up into their unit. Now, that keeps users on the same page as opposed to making raw data or applying their own treatments outside of the tool, and it creates a set of numbers that are going to match when they go group to group. In order to do this, what we do is we interview the stakeholders. We work with them to impart rules from various teams, campaigns, and timeframes, that really articulate the same meanings to executives as well as program-level managers. It gets everyone on the same page in terms of naming convention and values as well. And the beauty is that the interpretation is still up to the individual. They're always going to get what they need out of it, but their consensus moving up the line is going to stay intact. So on the left, you'll see how we achieve this. It's a fairly simple set of rules applied to a particular set of cells, along with data treatment along the way that flows into the completed report. You'll see different boxes or containers listed. This allows us to easily keep track of which treatment is being applied and where. So on the right, you'll see how we handle communicating the results. It's a little difficult to see here, but there are separate tabs to this particular report, and then each output from our single source of data blending is distinctly updated within our Tableau resources, and then we can lay out user-specific views to so that each participant is going to get what they need. So we're strong believers in providing filters as well. So this may be a single report that has an all-encompassing view up top, but regionally they can actually go in and filter down to what's specific to them and get into the individual program that they manage themselves. One of my favorite examples of being able to succinctly work with the data and demonstrate the data is above here. So basically, along the way of establishing business rules for our clients and communicating the results, what we need to do is make sure we communicate to them and build trust with them that we understand their data. And the best way to do this is to show them that we're working with them intelligently here. So the example above comes from a previous ROI study we did for a large restaurant franchisee. We were looking and asked to look at the impact of gamification on employee performance and retention. So to do that, we absorbed years of sales data and other data from HR to make these links. And along the way, what we showed them was how we're treating information, what information was going into that final data set where we're making this determination. So with these early findings, we would take them on biweekly reviews of where we were with the report. And so here you can see this is all the sales data coming in, and by whom, by location, and the different levels that we're seeing, some clear outliers there. So it's easy to say, client, we're going to take this information, we're not going to use it as it was given to us, we see some errors. We're going to clean this particular set out, and then this is the final data set that we're given here. So they were easily able to agree to say, you know what, that is a better data set you're working with, let's go ahead and move with that, as opposed to saying, you know what, your sales totals don't add up to ours at the end of the day. This way, we were able to concretely demonstrate what we were doing, how we were doing it, and why we were doing it, and then make a note in the report, in the end report, that demonstrates, just the capture of that information here. And then lastly, really what we want to do is take a look at that aha moment. So in the ROI study referenced on the previous slide, all that data ingestion and analysis made it to two particular PowerPoint slides. So we provided two succinct stories, which our counterparts were then able to bring internally and use for future discussion. Here, this is really the final benefit from flipping the triangle we discussed earlier, from focus on working with data to focus on using it. To that extent, I've got a snapshot of the sales customer dashboard here that demonstrates who's involved and some high-level trends to demonstrate success. The executive summary clearly demonstrates the impact we're having on the organization in three separate ways. It links the activity we promote through gamification to the sales results, the conversations from the conversions from the trended chart, really start to indicate our activities are leading indicators of subsequent sales. And that increased activity within the system that we're tracking is actually correlated to increased sales as well. Lastly, we provide a pre-post demonstration. So here's where you were before Bunchball. Here's where you are after Bunchball, showing lifetime periods and then shifts in behaviors as well as shifts in sales. So these quick demonstration points set foundation for communicating success and really become the lead-in to deeper discussion. These are great proof points to initially gain the favor, but then as we mentioned before, we want to find out what's driving that, where it's being driven, and by perhaps even which different groups. So we've got the filtering capabilities there as well, and so here again, our clients can take this if they want to demonstrate right into a PowerPoint with a couple notes there and send out online, we can also use it to say, hey, we think we're on the right track. Let's dig in deeper and find out where we can take this moving forward. That's really our experience using Alteryx and Tableau. I hope you've enjoyed going through the 5 secrets of data blending. At this point, I'll hand it off to my Munna and look forward to answering any of your questions towards the end of the webinar.
Hi, everyone. Let me just start my slide. Okay, thank you so much, Keith. So as Tracy mentioned at the beginning, my name is Munna Block. I'm an Alliance Marketing Manager here at Alteryx. I just have a couple of slides just to really talk more about Alteryx, which you heard Keith talk about his usage during his presentation. So just a little bit of information about our company. We are the leader in data blending and advanced analytics. And you saw some examples of the intuitive workflow with drag and drop tools earlier. About 250 employees based out of the Bay Area and Colorado, as well as Irvine. Really important here that I wanted to share is we have 1,000+ customers across the world, and our clients range from companies Bunchball to McDonald's, retail, healthcare, and what's really cool is that we have over 400 joint customers with Tableau. So a lot of people really finding the same success that you saw Keith demonstrate earlier. We have a really strong renewal rate, which is really important. We've found our customers really happy and satisfied and recommending it internally within their organizations as well as to other data analysts. So Keith talked a little about this, but I just really want to emphasize what Alteryx does. It's a really great tool for, number one, blending and prepping data. So we can connect to a number of sources from Amazon Redshift to Teradata, Oracle, any sort of Hadoop data sources, of course Excel, Salesforce, and Marketo. And really it's about using these simple drag and drop tools to blend all your data and make sure you can bring it together to one data source, because then it's ready for the analyzation step. We also offer tools to enrich the data, so if you're doing location analysis or geographic analysis, you can enrich it with TomTom or market data analysis with Experian and Dun & Bradstreet, to name a few. Really, it's about cleaning and then blending the data with third-party content. And finally, we offer predictive and spatial analytics, and this is all done again with drag and drop tools. So what's really great is that you don't need to know R coding, you don't need to know any sort of programming at all. If you are someone who knows how to code, of course you can bring in and write your own code, but really this, again, it's about letting the data analysts have access to these tools that maybe were previously only available to a data scientist or someone with some really hardcore programming knowledge. And finally, you want to share. And Keith showed some of the great dashboards they have put together for Tableau. You can consume it anywhere. We output directly TDE files to Tableau Online, Tableau Server, Tableau Desktop. So it's about ease of use and being able to then share and visualize that data. And Keith talked a lot about telling a story. So Alteryx is really enabling that quick data blending. Then you can get to the storytelling and the visualization part. And with that, I will hand it over to Ross.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen as well. And there we are. Great. Well, thanks so much to both Keith and Munna. And I know I'm at the end here, so I'll be relatively brief. But the piece that Tableau adds to this discussion is fairly important, because after you've invested the time and the energy to collect your data, transform it, and prepare it for analysis, Tableau gives you the tools to very simply just see and understand your data so that you can share your findings with anyone in your organization. Tableau is a tool that you use to execute on the investment that you've made in data with Bunchball and Alteryx, basically. Technically, it's a relatively simple integration. Alteryx exports a Tableau data extract that you can connect to with 2 clicks in Tableau Desktop. Now, obviously, Alteryx is the best tool to be using if you need to blend data, but if you happen to have other databases or data that you want to blend in with the data that you've imported from Alteryx, you can connect to dozens of different data sources in Tableau as well, from Google Cloud SQL to Cloudera and Teradata. Like I was saying before, Tableau Desktop is the tool that you can use to achieve all of this. It's where you connect to data, drag and drop to analyze, and create interactive dashboards. So after you've finished creating your visualization in Tableau Desktop and you've connected to all the data that's useful to you, you can publish to Tableau Server or Tableau Online, which are server-based products that allow other people to view or interact with your visualizations through a browser. So if you are creating a visualization that shows your gamification data from Bunchball that you've imported through Alteryx, then you can create interactive filters and tools that can enable other people in your organization to interact with your data through a browser and very easily be able to answer their questions. So I think one of the more interesting slides that Keith showed and that I really appreciated was the one where it was the two triangles showing the value of different levels of the analytical process. And Bunchball and Alteryx give you this fantastic foundation to create the data that you need to analyze. But after you've put all the effort into doing that, Tableau allows you to actually take that and turn it into insight that other people can benefit from. So like I was saying, you create the visualizations in Tableau Desktop, and you can publish them to Tableau Server or Tableau Online. So those are the three main products that we have at Tableau. But if you're looking at this slide, you'll see that Tableau has two other products, Tableau Public and Visible. So Tableau Public can allow you to publish a visualization to the public web as opposed to a server like with Tableau Server or Tableau Online where your data would be protected and behind a sign-in. So with Tableau Public, you can actually publish similar or the same visualization to the public web and then embed it in a blog or website so that other people can view and interact with that data in a more open fashion if that is a need of your organization. On the other token, or on the other hand, Visible is an iPad app that can help anyone with a file or a spreadsheet on their iPad to turn it into a visualization that's meaningful and interesting. And we just launched this. It's very exciting. You can literally use your fingers to interact with the data on your iPad and kind of work through questions and answers interactively, which is a very interesting process and a lot of fun. So the idea here generally is that Tableau allows you to see and understand any data, no matter what it is, no matter where it is, and share it with anyone in your organization. And if you want to give it a try, you can download the free 14-day trial from our website, which is Tableau.com, and you can connect to your data in Alteryx right away. So with that, I think we are ready for Q&A. So I'm going to stop presenting.
Great, thanks, Ross. We do have some questions here right now, and for those that are just getting their questions in, go to your question toolbox, and then you can type your question in, and then I'll be asking one of our speakers the questions. Our first question right now is, how large are your biggest data sets? For example, are they millions of rows?
I think I'll take that one. From a Bunchball perspective, yes. We often merge data sets that are millions of rows each. For example, what I showed there from our SQL queries, it's absolutely common for us to receive more than 1 million rows worth of data in each one.
And actually, if I can just jump in, this is Munna from Alteryx. We have a lot of great capabilities with various data warehouses that involve in database blending, which means that you can blend data without pulling it out of your warehouse. So this is really good, we found, for people with high volume data because realistically you're not waiting for that move time and you can get to a really clean and perfected data set very quickly.
Yeah, and building on top of that, the final step in the process, the analytics with Tableau and is relatively performant as well with the extracts that Alteryx is going to be exporting, and these are completely optimized connections that are going to be really quick, even with very large amounts of data to see and analyze your data. And not just ask a query and have it show up, but actually to be interactively working with your data, dragging and dropping, adding different facets and fields and data to your analysis. So yes, large data sources are a fantastic tool to be using.
Thank you all. The next question is, how can we use data blending in attracting more people to become foster and or adopted parents?
I think I can take that one from a gamification standpoint. And I can't necessarily answer the question here, but maybe start you down the road, and I'll be certainly happy if you want to follow up after the webinar as well. What comes to mind when looking at an initiative such as this is community engagement. So as we focus on where individuals can start to provide their information on their experience as either a foster or adoptive parent or child, and then encourage them to share their stories, that's usually where we have success in these broader kind of community initiatives. So the goal here for us, often turns into how do we create champions who are willing to get the word out and provide, an example of their experience that can be leveraged to, implore others, to be interested in these types of activities. So, that's where, the game mechanics are involved, to really encourage people to speak out and become the champions for the cause. That's the initial way. From an analytics, standpoint, I would hesitate to go too much further. I'd want to get you in touch with a digital strategist on our team at Bunchball who can speak to that a little more clearly than I.
Great, thanks, Keith.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question: how do your customers view their Tableau reports, and are they sent out to external customers?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Again, we have a few different varieties of ways, actually. So internal constituents, as well as some external, do leverage Tableau Reader in order to open up our reports and digest them there. We actively upload a set of reports to Tableau Online so that our clients can have access to as well. And some of our larger enterprise clients who also have their own installations of Tableau actually accept our workbooks and provide them through their own intranets as well for access internal.
Thank you. All right, our next question is, what was the learning curve on Alteryx?
That's another good question. I would say it was, for us it was pretty smooth. We found it to be, as a visual ETL, a very intuitive program. Now, we are, I would say, adept at Excel and Access, so the notion of data blending and right joins and left joins were very common for us, and that understanding was definitely able to be leveraged. So I would say, the leap over to Alteryx from those tools was very smooth for us, and actually allowed us to leverage those tools more effectively than we had before.
Thanks, Keith. We also have a question coming in. Can you tell how often your clients are viewing or using their Tableau workbooks?
Yeah, it's easy to see with Tableau Server who's been viewing your visualizations and what they've been viewing, when they've been viewing it, that kind of thing. And one thing that I find particularly helpful with Tableau Server and Tableau Online, again, these are the tools that you use to share visualizations with other people, is that you can actually, if you have the permissions and the person who's created the workbook has given you the permissions, you can download it and actually create your own views. So it's really helpful because people will often come into a dashboard and look at the data and ask questions of it, but still want to be able to maybe create their own view or change the type of visualization. And using Tableau Server and Tableau Desktop, you can download those workbooks and then be able to augment them in any way so that you can dig into the data a little bit deeper. it doesn't specifically pertain to whether or not you can see what people are doing. You can absolutely do that, but you can also enable people to answer their own questions, and I think that's really the most important part, most important feature of Tableau and our product suite is being able to enable people to not just see something, but to take it and answer their own questions so that they're not coming back constantly to the people who are managing the data and asking for them to answer their questions. It's about empowering individuals to answer their own questions.
Ross, thanks so much. We also have a question coming in. What is your workflow to help clients?
Is that directed towards Bunchball? I can jump in there. We have a fairly structured workflow to help clients. We start out with what we call a measurement and learning plan, which is where prior to launch, we're going to discuss with our clients what are your goals that you have for the program, identify what are the environments and data sources that we can leverage perhaps to communicate a success against those goals. So with those goals identified, we then next identify the KPIs. We consider those the real measurable components that we're going to say link to the goals as stated there as well. And so we do that in combination with our digital strategy and technical teams to enable and get everyone on the same page. This is why we're here. This is what we're going to do. These are the proof points that we can demonstrate against that. So then how do we leverage game mechanics in order to provide the most elegant solution to drive those meetings?
Excellent, Keith. Thank you. And if anyone else has any questions, please make sure you use the question toolbox for that. Right now you can see the next steps as well as some free trials on our question and answer page, so please take the time to have a look at that. We do have another question coming in right now. Can you do what-if scenarios? For example, if I have 1,000 stores, how much will profitability increase if I close the lowest 10% of those stores? Who would like to take that one?
I'll jump in. I think that we all have probably a good response to that question. But from the Tableau side, it's relatively easy to do statistical analysis and to be able to forecast as well. And actually, in a couple of different scenarios with Tableau, forecast is really just as easy as dragging and dropping in the tools. So one thing that Munna brought up was, all of our tools are really focused on enabling people who aren't necessarily data scientists, but are obviously competent with data and understand their own data sets, but maybe need some help to quickly analyze and find answers. So Tableau enables you to do that kind of statistical analysis and what-if analysis that you need to in order to answer questions about where to go with your business or organization. And again, it's not just about being able to answer those questions with, it's about also being able to answer them relatively easily and without having to be an expert in some scripting language or something like that. So Tableau definitely enables you to do those kind of what-if questions, and I know that my other two speakers probably have something good to say on that as well.
This is Munna. I'll jump in. I think that covered that really well. One thing I think it's great to point out that Keith mentioned is the repeatability and the repetition with the workflow. So not only are you able to answer that question and then visualize it in Tableau, but obviously you're going to want to answer that question over and over again, and you're going to want to do it in a consistent manner, so on a monthly basis or a weekly basis. And so what's great is that with the Alteryx workflow, when you're pulling in the tools, again, no programming, you are able to answer that kind of question and then feed it out to Tableau. So it's always consistent and you're not redoing the work.
And from my perspective there, kind of that story that I demonstrated where we're able to quickly filter out a set of data and demonstrate what it was like afterwards, applying those types of constructs in what-if analysis is definitely something we impart through both Alteryx and Tableau.
Excellent. Thank you all. Any last questions, please use the question toolbox. I'll just give a few more seconds here. Okay, well, I'd like to thank all of our speakers today, Keith, Munna, and Ross, for such a great webinar. I'm seeing a lot of great comments here. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. I'd like to remind you that today's webinar, along with the slides, is going to be archived at ModernAnalyst.com within a few days. And thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone.